The biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex. With the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome on in, everybody. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us on the program. Watching the World Baseball Classic. I know these two countries, they can never bury the hatchet. Canada and Cuba.
Man, some hard feelings there. Long history between those two countries.
Team USA is now waiting its destiny because they need Mexico to lose to Italy or to not beat them by very much so that the Team USA, are you hearing me right, can move on in the World Baseball Classic to get to the quarterfinals. There you are. Okay. Hey, man, it's been an awesome hour because we, just about 35 minutes ago, got off the phone with Nick Schmaltz, the Utah Mammoth forward, who has now been extended 8 years, $64 million today. We were all crossing our fingers at some point when an extension could happen or how this thing was going to play out. Everybody wanted to see Schmaltzy next to Clayton Keller on that ice, I think, for an extended amount of time, as much time as we could get him, and it looks like they got their man. Joining us on the program right now, he is the radio play-by-play voice of the Utah Mammoth. He is Mike Folta. No better news than to get that to not have to talk about last night's game in Minnesota, Mike.
Exactly. I think PR really they timed that extremely well. But Nick Schmaltz, 8 more years. He's a $64 million man now.
Love it.
Making eight sheets a year. Not too shabby. He probably saved the season for the Utah Mammoth. We've talked about it before, guys. When Logan Cooley got hurt, the Utah in December lost their top center, right, or their top natural center, and Nick Schmaltz made the jump from wing to center. And Utah didn't just survive with Schmaltz in that spot; they thrived, and he does so much more than just produce offensively, which he does. But he's a great defensive player as well, and it's a win for everybody today. A lot of smiles in the press room.
And for good reason. You're absolutely right, the way he played this year. Why was this so important to get done now as opposed to waiting until the offseason?
Well, I think is once July 1st hit and he became a free agent, there were going to be a lot of suitors who, to be quite honest, were probably going to pay more than $8 million a year for his services. And that's one of the reasons why the term is as long as it is. Mammoth wanting to keep the AAV down as much as possible, right? So you can sign more players. But the player also wants the financial security that he's deserved. And so both sides, kind of meet in the middle a little bit and get it done 8 by 8. I think if he would have walked to free agency, you could be looking at 9, even closer to $10 million, because he plays the center position, which is, as we've talked about, it's the hardest position to play. It's very demanding, both offensively and defensively, and he's done it at a very high level this season. So those guys are rare, and his services would be extremely highly sought after in free agency. And we heard from Bill Armstrong, the general manager, in the presser. He was saying he was losing sleep about thinking what could happen if they couldn't get Nick Schmaltz signed. So they finally pushed it across the goal line.
Well, as we look at the standings still, and we've the tie against Chicago, that's not the result you totally wanted, because we're all kind of scratching our head about what they have going with the Blackhawks this year and how they've just kind of had their number. But Minnesota last night, who Utah has always had their number over the past couple of seasons, this one came to a head when you have a second night of a back-to-back. Bear brought it up in the postgame. It's like, look, we don't love how this thing went. I think we played hard for a couple periods, but, you fall apart sometimes in those kinds of moments in a period here and there at the very end of a long road trip, and it's kind of forgiven on top of the fact that they had a killer road trip before that. How is this team set up now with 73 points and in 18 games left of this season?
Yeah, it was a tough one last night, and luckily I had Nick Olczyk on the call with me on the radio, and so, all of a sudden in the third period, it's 4-0, and we start telling jokes and
talking baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about anything but the game. The Mammoth took it on the chin. End of a road trip, a very busy trip with five cities in what is it, 10 nights?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still unpacking here, so I'm still trying to get my wits about me. But it was a busy road trip, and you mentioned the Mammoth struggling against Chicago. They had that overtime loss. You think, okay, you didn't play well, but you still got a point out of it. That's what good teams do. They can still get standings points even when they're not at their best. Well, then they laid a bit of an egg against a really, really good Minnesota team that's been near the top of the standings for the entire year. Chicago in town tomorrow night. They've beat the Mammoth 3 times this year. Blackhawks have not been one of the better teams in the league. They're third from the bottom in terms of points. You can bet that there is going to be no one's taking Chicago lightly tomorrow night. I can guarantee you that. And the Mammoth are going to do their darndest to make sure this is not a season sweep at the hands of the baby Blackhawks. So I expect a very focused effort from the group. And boy, Nick Schmaltz should be a little lighter on his feet, I would think.
No doubt about that. Look, matchups are a funny thing. Sometimes just a team has your number. I mean, and to be honest, the Mammoth until last night had the Wild's number. That's the first time the Wild have beat this franchise in regulation. But turning our attention to Thursday, you've seen this matchup 3 times now. What are the Blackhawks doing that's making life so difficult for the Mammoth?
Yeah, it is interesting. I think there's been a little – I think you could point to the Mammoth for part of it too, where they just haven't played all that well. But I think also Chicago's a team that can skate with Utah. We talk a lot about how good of a skating team the Mammoth are, how they play with pace, play with a ton of speed. Not just speed offensively, but speed defensively, closing in on puck carriers and taking away time and space. The Chicago Blackhawks have a lot of young players who play with that really high speed, and so they can kind of frustrate the Mammoth in a sense. We also heard from Dylan Guenther after the game on Monday night, and he was talking about how big some of the defensemen for Chicago are. They have one D pairing. They have a guy who's 6'6" and a guy who's 6'8", and they're holding 6-foot sticks to try and knock pucks away. I mean, those guys can basically stand with one hand on the glass and hold hands in the middle of the ice, right? Like they cover that much ground. So that was a frustrating sore spot for the Mammoth a few nights ago. But you also have to consider that this is, I think, the 3rd time that we're seeing the Blackhawks within the span of 2 weeks, 2nd time in 4 nights. So you're seeing a lot of this team, and I don't have all the answers for why Chicago has 3 wins over Utah, but I think Minnesota, to your point, JJ, is probably singing the same tune about the Mammoths. How have these guys beaten us 5 straight times here? We're supposed to be one of the best teams in the NHL, and they're still emerging, and yet we can't get past them. Well, now Utah is saying that about Chicago, but I don't look too deep into it, especially when most of the games are spread out. Like Utah played Chicago back in October, then lost to them again in March twice here. So I don't know how much you can extrapolate from a spread out sample size like that.
They get 2 at home here. They got Chicago, of course, coming in tomorrow, and then they have the Pens coming in on Saturday, and then they go back out on the road again for a short one against the Stars, and then Vegas. Over these next 4 or 5 games here, and I think it's important too that these 2 are at home here in the middle because the schedule is favorable the rest of the way. I don't know what that means in the NHL except for that, you look and you go, okay, you got to beat a lot of these teams. And by the way, you got to beat them not just to get to the playoffs, but like you got to, this is the sharpening your stick type of in time of the year for this team. What's the best version of getting ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs for this team? Not just winning games, but what's the stuff that makes these teams really dangerous in a Stanley Cup playoff situation?
Well, before I answer that, I just wanted to point out, you mentioned Dallas, Vegas road trip coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to be in Vegas for the start of the NCAA tournament. I mean, are you kidding me? we're gonna have first 4 games on Wednesday night, and then we play on Thursday, so that's the start of that first round. So that will be interesting, guys. I finished last in the team in the broadcast communications team bracket pool last year. I put hours. Ask anybody, hours into my selection process. I take the bracket very seriously. I print it out. I carry it with me for a month. It's glorious. And I finished dead last year. So I am on a warpath. I am determined to finish at least in the top 3, at least in the money this year.
Mike, stop picking Purdue to win the national championship.
Yeah. But that will be nice for you to be there in Vegas for the first 4.
Haven't you learned yet?
Well, I'm just wondering.
Learned your lesson?
It'll be nice because you'll be able to watch Purdue in those first 4 games. That'll be nice.
Hey, I've got the Boilers losing the 14th seed Hofstra.
Hey, Hofstra's pretty tough this year. Don't feel bad about that.
Yeah, they had a great story. They won their conference tournament, I believe.
Speedy Claxton's their coach.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice. You know what? Utah Valley University, first time in the tournament, maybe getting a go against the Boilermakers. That could be a reality
team matchup for you.
Yeah.
Maybe the Boilers could lend them $1 million. Don't they need that to? To get in the tournament.
Utah Valley could use some cash, so if Purdue could help them out,
they made some calls. They made some calls. I think they took out a HELOC. They were able to finish it off.
The briefcase was delivered. The Wolverines have been allowed to be free. So
maybe they can call Nick Schmaltz.
Right.
he's got some money.
He really could. I didn't even remember what I asked you. Oh, something about getting ready for the playoffs.
Ready for the playoffs. Yeah, I think the number one thing is you try to be healthy, right? And the Mammoths have been really blessed by being healthy, and they've added depth to their back end with Mackenzie Weegar, that trade coming over from Calgary. So what was already a strength of this team, the back end, only got deeper and stronger with Weegar's addition. So I think his addition and insertion into the lineup chemistry-wise is also a storyline to watch. Like, can we get Weegar up to speed where he is playing comfortably in Utah's system by the time the Stanley Cup playoffs hit? I think that's something to take into account. It seems like he's taken to the new systems very well and very quickly here in Utah. But you want to be playing your best hockey heading into the playoffs. And I think you also want your goaltender to feel good about how his body feels heading into the playoffs. Last year, Karel Vejmelka started 24 of the last 25 games of the season. He started 23 in a row. That hadn't happened since, I think it was 2014. It hadn't happened in over 10 years where a goalie had started 23 games in a row. Veggie did it last year. We saw Vitek Vanacek twice on this most recent road trip, and he's looked really good for the Utah Mammoth. And if he can continue to give the Mammoth a chance to win each night, and in doing so spell Karel Vejmelka, I think that's going to put Veggie and the Mammoth in a good spot heading into the postseason. Hey, we keep talking about the playoffs. They still got to get there.
I know. It's bad form.
They still got to get there.
Well, that prompts my next question. I'm looking at the standings. It's a 6-point lead right now with 17 left to play. The Kraken have 19 left to play, and the Sharks have 20 left to play. So the Utah Mammoth do have some games in hand there. But how good do you think of a position they're in right now with that 6-point lead with 17 left? How comfortable should you? I know the Mammoth aren't comfortable, but how comfortable should fans feel about that lead? How tough would it be to blow that?
It wouldn't be tough at all. It would take one bad week, essentially.
Yeah.
But if you, on the flip side of that, if you told me on October 6th, right before our first game, or October 8th, I don't know. If you told me first week of October that the Mammoth were going to be leading the wild card race or in that top wild card spot with a 6-point cushion, I would have said, yes, please, can I have another? Like, give me that all day.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, other teams do have some more opportunities, some more games in hand to make up ground on Utah. But I feel you got to win those games in hand, right?
Yeah.
They're not automatically points in the bank. You still got to win those games. Mammoth have a ton of home games against Western Conference teams coming up. I think it's 11 of the last 17 games here are home games compared to 6 on the road. So you almost have twice as many home games as you do road games. That's a big advantage. And the opposition, you're playing a ton of teams that you're battling for position with. That's going to be key as well. One of the strongest correlations that you can find with a stat to getting into the playoffs is goal differential. Goal differential almost always tells you who is going to make the playoffs. The Mammoth have a plus 22 goal differential right now. That's scoring more goals than the opposition. Nobody behind the Mammoth who is chasing Utah, nobody has better than a minus 11 goal differential. So if goal differential continues to be a key indicator like it has been the last 20 years that we've looked at it, the Mammoth are way ahead of the rest of the field in that regard.
Yeah, it was, it's tough. It was plus 27 until until last night. We were watching it and we were like, oh, man, look at this. They just keep piling on the goals. And then you're like, last night you're all. Anyway, let's get back to Salt Lake City. Mike Folta, the radio play-by-play voice of Utah Mammoth. You can find him at Delta Center tomorrow night when they take on the Chicago Blackhawks. You can find him at the MGM Sportsbook next week, getting ready for the NCAA tournament. We're looking forward to it, Mike. These next 17 games, or is it 18? Well, I can't remember.
17.
Next 17 games are going to be exciting to watch, and we're here for it, man. And the Schmaltz news made us absolutely excited today, and so we're looking forward to it the rest of the way, man. Good luck with your calls the rest of the way, and we'll talk to you next week, man.
Huge news, another centerpiece, another cornerstone cemented for the Utah Mammoth. Guys, thank you. Boiler up, Tusks up. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, there you go.
Enjoy the tournaments, Mike.
Mike Folta, there you go.